Hi, I'm Brittney Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Can you believe it? We are already here. Welcome to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. I'm your host, Brittney Ashley, and we are recording, actually not live today, with Julia on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 and 107.7 FM in wonderful New Orleans. Get ready to escape the next hour with us as we break norms and build dreams with Julia. Julia, I'm so excited to have you today.
Yay, me too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, everyone, I'm so excited for you to get to know Julia a bit more. I'll just do a little bit of a background and then we'll dig in. Everyone, this is lovely Julia, a holistic business coach, marketing strategist, speaker, and wellness practitioner. Julia's journey began in Brazil, where she started with big dreams and led her to the heights of the corporate world in Canada. With over 12 years of experience in digital marketing, she discovered a deeper passion for strategy and small business support. In January 2020, Julia shifted her focus to coaching, where she now helps purpose-driven women build their dreams and careers. You are actually based in Montreal now, but was also in Vancouver. So you're all over Canada, I like to say, but you also serve everybody around the world.
Yes, thank you so much for the intro, Brittney. Yeah, so I was in Vancouver for 16 years and now been 5 months in Montreal. And yes, exciting stuff. It's nice to be cross-country.
Yes, yeah. Well, I know your journey started off originally in the corporate world to entrepreneurship. Maybe you can kind of preface to every listener kind of how your journey started.
For sure. So, not getting too much into the old stuff, but my career was all in digital marketing in Canada. As you mentioned, like worked over 12 years in corporate. I never thought of having a business, which is funny because today not only I have a business, but I help other people to start their business and to grow it. But I never thought about it. And what was funny is how I started is I had a lot of free time because my partner worked too much, who is now my ex, but he worked a lot and it gave me a lot of free time. And then I started wanting to do like little passion projects here and there. And then I got so excited about them and I had like 1,000 ideas for businesses at that time. And I always wanted to play with different things. So it was just trying to occupy my time. And then I just loved it so much that I couldn't do something else. So I just got everything ready to quit corporate, which I did in 2021 and focus on having my own business. And it's like a playground to me. I love it.
I love that. And just like the premise of the show is that we are all worthy of whatever we want to pursue, either if it's in a 9-to-5 to a different kind of title or just going on that journey to entrepreneurship is very scary for a lot. It's a lot of risks that you need to take, but sometimes to be an entrepreneur, you need to make those calculated risks and sometimes just go into it. And you have such a range of a background. Maybe we can dig in more because I know you do correct me if I'm wrong. I'm reading it to making sure I don't say it wrong. EFT tapping.
Yes. Yeah.
And then NLP coaching. And then you also do Reiki. So yeah, tell us more.
So when I started coaching, first I was trying it out because I had all this experience with business and strategy, and I had a passion for supporting other people with their own business and working more with smaller businesses instead of like I worked with Fortune 500 brands in tech companies. I worked in one of the largest digital agencies in Vancouver. So I was used to serving bigger companies and I felt a bigger passion in supporting smaller businesses. So I started business coaching, really just focusing marketing strategy for solopreneurs and small business owners. And when I saw that's what I wanted to do full time, I actually did a retreat. I went to a retreat, attended a retreat, and I put all my intentions of like, I want to know what's my next step and what I'm going to do next. And I was eyeing a coaching program because there's so many coaching programs out there with different specialties and things. And I didn't know which way to go. And the one I wanted to do was a mindset coaching certification that was very expensive. And then I went to this retreat and it's like, I'm not sure where to invest and what to do next. And the retreat experience was amazing. I got, like, I did breath work for the first time. It was a very intense experience for me. We did like Reiki after the breath work. It was very intense. And we did ecstatic dancing, yoga, all that kind of thing, sound bath. And I had a wonderful experience. And in the end, it was so transformational. And I decided to go ahead with the program that was more spiritual, like the mindset coaching, instead of neuroscience as well, like dealing with the subconscious mind. So I started going in that route. And doing that program, I learned so many new things. Like, it changed my life personally, but I was looking like the results of my clients before I did this training and after mindset. So it's not just business and strategy and marketing. Like, there is the whole thing of who you are, how you show up, and your energy, and the mindset, how important it is. And that's where all these tools that you just mentioned, they came from this program that I decided to do.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And you and I have chatted many times, and I think that we have like such a synergy because we have other things in common and correlation as well. That's kind of overlap. That's why I really wanted you on the show. But yeah, just like the coaching realm too, like maybe we can just premise too, like I've talked about this in past shows of what is coaching and what is not coaching. Because I find that sometimes there's that disconnect that a lot of people don't understand what true coaching is. And coaching really, that's why I became a coach as well, is to really put the power back into the individual. Because sometimes we're always told, like, I know you wear both hats like I do, strategist and coach. Sometimes, yes, you need to jump into the strategy realm when someone is building a business. They might not know certain areas, but it's nice to kind of step back and ask those curious questions to those business owners, entrepreneurs, when we're so surrounded by all the noise that we don't know how to think for ourselves. So really, at the end of the day, coaching is like making us ask those curious questions for us to feel uncomfortable sometimes. I know it's taken me to feel really uncomfortable in my coaching when we did like coaching experiences with other coaches of like, oh my goodness, I've never been asked that question before.
It is very interesting. And yeah, I have a coach myself as well. And it's funny, we actually had a session yesterday and I'm feeling a lot of resistance towards what we're doing. And I didn't want to go. And I'm like, oh my God, I have this session. And it's so funny because it's like just putting myself on the coachy seat. But we are all humans. We are all going through our own things and our own experiences. And there is no such thing as getting there and ending the journey. So we are all working towards something. And I think it's very supportive to have someone to not just hold your hand, but I do find coaching, like, that's why coaches need it too. I find it helpful to be aware of things that we may be giving excuses. And I can give an example to that. Like, I'm a very mindful person, so I'm not like that coach that it's into hustling and working on weekends, late hours, because you got to work hard to get the results. Like, I'm not that person. I'm more mindful. I don't want anyone to be burned out and stressed and having anxiety attacks. So I try to mitigate that. Because of that, I have a thing that it's like, listen to your body. And if you need to rest, you got to rest. And if you need to go for a walk, you go for a walk. So that's who I am. That's why I teach my clients that, and that's how I act. And sometimes I noticed in the past, but then I learned with the experiences, right? But I noticed patterns repeating, that whenever I was afraid of something, like I have a big launch and I was a little scared, and then my body would shut down. Of course, this is how I responded. It doesn't mean everybody's going to respond the same way. But then it was a pattern that I noticed, that I would just like tell myself that I need to rest because my body is telling me to do so. And I would be like that for a week, maybe a few more days. until I realized like, okay, there is something wrong here. It's not just that I'm tired, or I would say like, oh, but I'm about to get my period, so I'm just like in that time of the month. Or once it was because I took the COVID vaccine, and then it was the side effects. I always had an excuse on why I was feeling tired and I needed to rest. But then I realized it was a self-sabotaging behavior, because it was repeating exactly, it was being triggered when I had this specific thing coming up. And when you work with a coach, you don't need to go through many patterns to realize that. It's like you have someone to spot it, to question you, right? Like, why is this coming up, and why, and why, and why, until you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so interesting how that works.
Yeah. And I always preference to a lot of people of like, okay, if we're going in a true coaching call, expect sometimes a lot of quiet. Because they think that you just are going to give all this advice. And it's like, no, and especially from somebody coming from fully on strategy to a coach, I find like a lot of my past clients, they are like, tell me, Brittney, just tell me the answers. And it's like, well, actually, this is going to be our awkward sit down moments. You think about it.
Yeah.
Tell me more. And I find that even for myself, like, I'm the kind of person that like go, 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 go. My ADHD brain, it's very hard for me to quiet. And so when I'm in those quiet moments, it's very hard for me to, and also like I'm a people pleaser. So I'm also learning myself of, okay, the coach isn't looking for my perfect answer. But I just always feel like I have to have that perfect answer. Like I remember when I had an interview like a long time ago, because I thought I was going to go work in the Navy. That was an interview.
Wow.
It's like they're asking me like what is a submarine or something like that. And I remember like thinking in my brain, like, I need to give the perfect like answer to pass this exam. He's questioning me, and I just spitballed like dictionary things, and I was like, and then I started going into the realms of like, they go under the water of X, Y, and Z. He's like, actually, we don't even know how deep a submarine can go, but I'm not looking for the perfect answer. And I had that like aha moment of like, why am I sitting here trying to give or craft the perfect answer when maybe I just don't even know? And I feel like we as individuals, sometimes societal, we think that we need to sometimes show up in that kind of realm because of what's been put out there, or could be trauma from the past or so forth. So working with coaches, it really helps you kind of stop, rewind, and reflect. And sometimes with such chaos, even if you're a mom, I'm a mom of two, if new listeners are listening, of two young kiddos, it's sometimes hard to like take those deep breaths and just rewind for a minute. But I love, and my biggest thing, Julia, I like to say is coaches need coaches. So I love to have coaches because I always end up learning more than I even think, and I love to learn.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's a way for us to be growing as well, right? We don't want to be stuck.
Exactly. I'm always like, what other, well, my husband thinks I'm probably crazy, but I always try to take new programs every year. I would say this is the longest I probably have even taken a program, which is very weird for me. And I'm starting to feel like antsy. I'm like, okay, what's now? What other program should I go into now?
Yeah, I think there is something like the more you learn, the more you see that there is to learn. So there's always like, so what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And absolutely, yeah.
I'm learning too to question myself of like, what's enough? So what, because success means differently to every people. And I'm the kind of person we've talked about imposter syndrome. And I think my full-fledged imposter syndrome comes in all the time because I just feel like I'm not enough. And so I'm holding myself back. So my imposter syndrome for me is like the expert for all the things. So I need to be / a perfectionist / an expert. So that means for anyone listening, I need to go take all these courses before I can do anything. And that piece ends up holding me back. As we were talking about holding back, it holds me back because I feel like I can't go work with those clients or do these things because I'm not good enough or competent enough.
Yeah, very common. It happens all the time. Like we can have all the credentials. I see this a lot, like being an immigrant myself and working with a lot of immigrant clients. That goes double time the imposter syndrome, because even if they have amazing corporate experience in their home country, they have amazing certifications, MBAs, post-grad degrees, and still like they move to a different country and it's like they feel they don't own any of that anymore, that they need to start from scratch. And we don't need to start from scratch. Like when I moved to Montreal now, I really made sure to rephrase that. And sometimes people would say like, wow, you're starting from scratch. And I'm like, I'm not starting from scratch. I have all my life behind of me, and actually I already came here knowing some people. I am building my own community here. I already have clients here. Like things are happening because it's not from scratch. We are all coming from a different place, but we're just continuing our journey.
Exactly. It's just finding a community in a different area. I find sometimes when you make those kind of moves, yes, it is scary, but there's community out there. We had a conversation previous show, I believe, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I can't quite remember. It feels like a whirlwind the last few weeks/months, the summer months. But Nadine and I had conversations of like where to find those kind of communities. And we talked about Facebook groups. Do you have any kind of intake on where, if anyone's just making a move, where they can find a community?
Yes, 100%. I love Facebook groups. I think Facebook, it's mostly nowadays is Facebook groups and marketplace. I don't feel like pages or anything else, profiles, are doing much these days. And WhatsApp groups. So I recently spent a couple of months in Mexico as well before I came to Montreal. And I went to Tulum. And one thing I did, because I wanted to connect with people there, so I found out about these WhatsApp groups, and they had dozens and dozens. It's like so many groups for everything you can imagine. They had like girls to go out for brunches. They had spiritual events to attend, or like parties, whatever. It's like they just have digital nomads. So many groups. I found co-working spaces that would have their own. So because I'm like an entrepreneur, I want to meet people who are working remote as well. So I found the co-working spaces were really great to meet people, and they have their own groups. And then you get to like, and then you ask around like, which other group should I be part of? And on Facebook, you find a lot as well. So I think going to Mexico before made it so much easier for me when I decided to come to Montreal, because I saw how quickly I was able to connect with people in a place that I knew no one. Because in Montreal, I know people, and I know people who know people. So it would be so much easier. But yeah, Facebook and WhatsApp groups are great.
I didn't even know WhatsApp had, like, I knew you can create your own groups, but I didn't realize that you can actually go and searching. I'm just so used
You can't search. You can't search. You need to find the groups. So either through Facebook or someone else would give you. You can't search that.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So I was like, oh, I didn't know that you can like. I was thinking in my brain of like, what is Facebook?
Yeah, you need to find the right people. But even in Montreal now, I'm on a few groups already. I created my own group. So I went on a Facebook group, Women Freelancers in Montreal, because I work mostly with women solopreneurs. And then I mentioned like, well, we work alone by ourselves at home. So it's nice to connect in person sometimes. So if you want to do some co-working sessions or happy hours together, like let me know. And I created a WhatsApp group. And then in like a couple of weeks, I had 80 people, 80 women in the WhatsApp group. I already hosted 4 events that were just like free networking events. From those, I already get leads, clients, and I hosted my first paid event, like a mini retreat last weekend, which was sold out in 3 days, which is crazy. And a lot of it came from like all this movement I did through Facebook and WhatsApp, which is super cool. It's like it just to show that I've been here for 5 months. So like we can totally dig in all digital stuff and bring it to reality, to the in-person, and change things.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I love that. I didn't even realize, like, I didn't even think, I think my brain is just so used to like, just going to Facebook groups, but I didn't even think of like asking for WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
Like I'm in them, like we're in the forum, which is a great, if anyone listening, great organization here in Canada for women business entrepreneurs to really build each other up. I can't quite remember their slogan, but it's pretty much at the end of the day, no woman left behind. And we can all build each other as a community. And I love being in that WhatsApp group. I find like I get a bit overwhelmed because there's so much going on there. So I skim it every day.
Same, yeah. There's only so much time in the day. But yeah, it's a great way, especially if you can have your own group, because then you kind of you start the conversation however you want it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's very good.
Yes. I was just going to ask, because I know we talked about holistic business coaching. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, so when I started, as I mentioned, I was very focused on the strategy, the marketing, the business, which is what I did in corporate, and I was very confident on. And then when I did a mindset coaching program and I learned all these new tools, and I already had this mindful approach to business, I started already with this approach. But then I could kind of bridge both. So the way I work with people is taking them as a human who are a business owner. So they're managing the business. And my goal, yes, is to help the business, but also to support them as that human managing it. So with the holistic practices, we can work on limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, imposter syndrome, all those things that comes up. And the tools that I bring, they're also like very holistic in nature. So the EFT tapping, for example, it's a form of therapy that it's like we tap specific points of the body. It's the same points used in acupuncture as well, but instead of using a needle, we use this tapping movement.
Okay.
And it uses a little bit of talking therapy. So we are talking about tapping is used to release something you're feeling. So let's say you're very stressed or you're nervous before a sales call or before a public speaking engagement, and you're just feeling like stress and anxiety. So you can do tapping to release those emotions and to actually embody the confident self that you want to show up as. So it's one of my favorites. Really cool. And it connects. So when you're doing the tapping, we repeat some affirmations as you're tapping the body. So I'm guiding that. And you just repeat with me. Once you learn, you can do it by yourself as well. And then yeah, so you release, you embody, and then you feel like a completely different person. It's quite amazing. It connects with the nervous system as well, so it helps to regulate. So if you are on that fight or flight moment, like very scared, like of a public speaking, for example, then it helps to shift back into parasympathetic nervous system and to like calm down the nervous system. It helps to drop cortisol release. So it has a lot of benefits. Really interesting.
That's neat. A long time ago, I'm trying to remember, but no point of remembering exact date. But I have a learning disability, dyslexia, and self-diagnosed with ADHD. But I do remember back in the day when they're teaching me how to read, we do certain things of those kind of mechanisms. And so I think maybe because I was never properly educated on it or understanding it, I just felt really awkward and kind of weird about it. So maybe you can explain to people that are like, oh, that just seems really weird, but how to take that risk. Because it sounds so neat, because it feels like once you, I don't want to say accept the process of tapping, but it seems like you can really kind of move your kind of like, I'm trying to think of the right word. I want to say the scaredness of trying something new to the tapping to lead into something great, if that makes sense. Like, how do you let somebody who's scared to try something as new as that, like speed walking, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So tapping works best when you are feeling the emotion. So how I use it is like sometimes a client come into a session and they say, "Oh my God, I'm having a horrible day. I wanted to cancel the call, but it's too last minute, so I couldn't. So here I am, but I'm feeling very irritated. I'm in a bad mood. Everything is going wrong. I'm just upset at X, Y, and Z and not feeling like this." And then I just suggest, everything is always just an invitation. So I suggest, like, would you be interested in trying tapping? And we can work into those emotions, letting them go and feeling better. So that's how I typically use. And usually people say yes to it. And then we work on it for like 20, 30 minutes, release the emotions. And literally after, they're like, we measure like from 0 to 10, how strong is this emotion now? And then in the end, we measure again, and it's like it's so drastic on how much it dropped most of the time. Like it gets close to zero, like 0.12. And then we still have time to get going with our session to do what was planned. And then in the end, I always ask, so how are you feeling, to like go on with your day? And they're always like, it's like this thing never happened in my morning. It is really amazing. So tapping is really great before, like when you're feeling the sensations. So if you're trying something new, and it's more like when the fear installs and then you do the tapping to release, that's when it's good. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'll go into the next question, but we're already midway here. For anyone listening, just jumping in, welcome to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. We're live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM in lovely New Orleans. And we are speaking with Julia today. My next question for you is all about burnout and anxiety. So would you say the tapping kind of goes in, like, do you utilize tapping within somebody experiencing severe anxiety or anything like that?
Yes, it can help, but my goal is to help you not get there. So I don't usually like at the beginning. My clients are not in that state. I have experienced anxiety and burnout before when I was trying to build my first business. And then I had to quit everything that I built because of my health. And then when I started coaching, I had to take this more mindful approach to take care of myself. So what I try is so people don't get there. It's more taking, like, there is no rush, there is no competition. Like, you are your own boss, you are the one setting your deadlines, and each person has a different capacity. So I have clients who are like full-time on their business and they have full-time time available to them to work on them. And I have clients that are single moms with 3 kids, and like you can't expect that they're going to have the same amount of time to get things done. So I just try to work with the time and the energy that they have, and make sure that they are able to deal with that so they don't get to anxiety and burnout. But it is something that can come up still. And then, yes, those tools can support. Also Reiki, just meditation. I love meditation so much. I do have a bunch of resources, like of my favorite meditations. I love the Insight Timer app, which is free.
Probably in your resources on your website.
Yeah, no, so the resources I have on my website, they are more related to business.
Okay.
Yeah, and those more holistic resources are more like meditation. So I have a list of bookmarked meditations for all sorts of things that I've used and I still use myself to support me with mindset and shifting. And yeah, those are things we can work on.
I love that. And I find, I think it's important just to highlight for listeners too, like burnout shows up so differently for everybody. So burnout might not look the same for one or the other, but it's to understand kind of more or less your body and what you're feeling of, like, it's too much. For myself, because I take on a lot sometimes, this year I've decided to kind of take a step back a little bit in the business and not take on so many clients and really fix the foundational pieces in the business, because I was helping so many people fix their business operations and all automations, all the things. But then I was just letting kind of the business and the way of the background just keep going. And I was still doing everything manually. And I was like, well, why am I pushing myself, doing all these things over here and doing everything manually here, where things can be automated, less stressful for me? And I was definitely feeling like on the level of burnout. And so I was like, you know what, maybe this summer, let's just like not take a step back, more, not even really this summer, this year in a way, I guess. I can't believe we're almost done summer, but take a step back, reassess kind of like your messaging, where you want to go with the business, and not take on as so many clients. Because really the business for me anyways didn't start out of profit. It was really out of passion. And so it's reevaluating that, because I find sometimes when you get through, it's pretty much like when you're on autopilot all the time, sometimes you forget why you start something, or you kind of get kind of pushed over here. So this year was kind of my self-reflection. Where am I going? What am I doing? And all the questions for myself. And like, I work with a coach and they're like, where are you? I'm like, I'm here just busy doing things in the background because I know I don't want to go I don't want any leads at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm almost feeling like the level of burnout that I was like on the verge of, which is really important to kind of know where those are. Because if I felt if I would have pushed myself further, I probably would, like, you can't go off, was it the full cup? Like, you really need to make sure that you're putting yourself first too, especially if you have kiddos or you're in a relationship or maybe a dog. Like, you need to really make sure that you're like this extra self-care in between and moving forward, or else you can't really sustain and take care of everyone around you. So the burnout is real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to kind of realize that. And then also to anxiety. I have always lived on anxiety basis, which isn't good. But the more I've been finding out myself this year of who I am, I just think naturally I've just always been an anxiety type kind of person, because it stems from ADHD is what I'm now understanding, like ADHD and dyslexia. So it's just kind of like, okay, so how do I regulate that for myself? And what does that look like for me? So I love that you're like encompassing all these different tools, Julia, because I just know like we should work together.
Yes, no, that's so important. I think the more mindful I became of myself, the more everything makes so much sense. So I had my anxiety attack in 2007. No, hold on. I had my first one was a long time ago. It was like 11 years ago. I had no idea what was happening. I went to the emergency room at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. And when the triage lady asked, like, why are you here? Like, what do you have? And then I just started, like, when I went to speak, I started bawling, crying. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I couldn't even speak. And I was just crying. And she probably was so used to seeing that. For me, I'm like, I've never seen this, never experienced this. I was so confused. So she's like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, it's going to be all right. And like, don't worry. And then I did a bunch of exams, and then they saw like it was anxiety. And now I see all the symptoms that I had, like the palpitations or like not being able to sleep. I would like fall asleep and immediately wake up as if like someone is breaking into my house, but there is nothing. I would just be like falling asleep, waking up with my heart racing, and it's like nonstop cycle. It was horrible. But now seeing those things, and now better understanding how anxiety looks like for me, and as you mentioned, symptoms can be different on each person, I can really identify when something is coming before it becomes this full snowball.
Yeah.
So if I see heart palpitation, or if I see my breath is a little heavier, I can see those things that I know for me is off, and then I can stop and ask, what's happening? Why is this coming? What do I need to pay attention on? Right? Like, and not let it snowball, which is what happened before. So I think everything happens for a reason. So even though it wasn't fun to go through it, I now have a full understanding of like nervous system regulation, because I saw what a deregulated system looks like. And then I can be supportive and help people to find that mindfulness of, even during a call right now, I can like right now tap into myself and see how I'm feeling, or how my breath is, or how my heart is. And we all can do that, but it's just practice of checking in with yourself and how you're feeling. How is your energy?
That's amazing. And I feel like we live in such like in a hustle culture of go, 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 go. Even like when you're in like business, of like people is always kind of comparing each other or all the things. And really at the end of the day, I think should be focused on you and your business, and not to compare of what maybe somebody's posting on social media and promising 6 figures to, like, that's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get you to your 6 figures, because you need to show up too. But I just like, you just need to really be mindful of you and your surroundings, and not to compare. And I know you briefly touched on imposter syndrome. I love learning about imposter syndrome. I did a course with Dr. Valerie Young, who really coined her whole life on researching imposter syndrome. And the things that I've just found fascinating specifically are that imposter syndrome showing up for young kids at age 6. So
Wow.
we have to start questioning why imposter syndrome is showing up at such a young age. And like for me as a mom, I'm like, oh, my daughter's is at that age. So now I'm like, okay, what are questions maybe I can do to make sure that she feels comfortable and confident that she can go do something?
Mm-hmm.
But
Wow, that's a very, very early age.
right, isn't that crazy? I started on this like research funnel a little bit, but I just love learning imposter syndrome. Did you find that? I just want to quickly go back to burnout because I forgot to ask you this. How can entrepreneurs kind of recognize burnout, or just kind of how can they navigate burnout?
Um, so again, navigating, it means you are on it already.
Mhm.
That's like the sirens are on, and it's almost, to me, it's like probably drop everything right now and take care of yourself.
Mhm.
Just see where you are and the support that you can get. But it can get really worse. So you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would work on gaining that mindfulness ahead and
Mhm.
really setting boundaries from day one. So I see, like, I had people that I engaged in business conversations that they would message me like every time it was on a Sunday
Mhm.
and on Instagram. And I am on Instagram, but I'm there as Julia, a person, not as the business. And I would just not open the message until it's Monday
Yeah.
because it's my free time. So just like putting on those boundaries in the beginning, yes, especially as a side hustler, I did work on some weekends, I did work on some evenings, but I learned to try my best to get a balance. I'll actually give another example. So the first time I quit my business, not my business, I quit my corporate job to have a business. The first time I did it, that I had burnout, I was able to get my business running in 8 months to make enough money to quit my job in 8 months. That's very quick.
Yeah, that is.
So I was doing 1,000 things at the same time. So I was director of marketing at an agency, which is already a stressful job that has a lot of demands. I would go earlier, like really early, like 7 a.m. So I could leave early and get going with my personal things.
Mhm.
I joined Toastmasters because I was very shy. I would not be able to be here talking to you. So
I
I
would have never have guessed that you. That's
was
amazing.
I wouldn't even say good morning. I was very shy. So I did Toastmasters for public speaking. I joined a mastermind group to help me put the business out there. I was building the business. I had freelance clients as a marketing consultant, and I was teaching social media marketing in the evenings at a college to make some
Wow.
extra income.
Yeah.
So I'm tired just saying those things. It's a lot. Um, and I was happy. I didn't see it coming. I was so happy, so excited. 8 months, I was making enough money that I'm like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. And then anxiety hit. So I quit everything, back to corporate, take care of my health, eating better, exercising. I started meditation at that time. And then when I was ready to start a business again, that I wanted to do things differently, I had to take that into consideration. So instead of 8 months, it took me 1 year and a half. And
Mhm.
how I decided to quit, like that leap of faith, was I knew I couldn't make any more results, get any more results without putting more energy. And I knew I couldn't put more energy without sacrificing my health.
Yeah.
So I actually had two choices. I can keep the job for the financial stability that I had a very good paying job, so I had a hard time
Mhm.
letting that go. So I could either hire someone to help me grow the business and continue as a side hustler, or quit the job and go full time. So
Mhm.
I actually decided to hire someone. I could not quit the job. Like, I was just so attached to that financial stability. So I hired someone. We did 3 months of crazy amounts of content, posting on Instagram every single day. That's kind of when Reels came up, and started doing Reels, and we were putting out so much content. And then I launched the course, the same one that I launched the year before, and I
Mhm.
sold the exact same amount. Which
Yeah.
is crazy. Like, we put so much more effort, and I hired someone part time, like 20 hours a week for 3 months.
Oh wow.
So put a lot of energy, put a lot of stuff out there, and I got the same results. And then again, I had to reevaluate, and I said, you know what? I think I need to put my energy into this.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then I decided to quit the job, and I had to let that person go because I couldn't quit my job and still pay someone. So I just
Yes.
decided to put all my energy. But basically, my what I learned is that I need to know the boundaries of how much I can do
Hmm.
without burning out. So,
Yeah.
and when I reached that and I can't grow anymore, I had to quit the job. So
Hmm.
I didn't wait to get anxiety like I did before. I quit
Yeah.
before so I could. And I've been doing this for 5 years now, coaching for 5 years, and I quit over 3 years. Been doing this full time now, and it worked great. Like taking care of myself, setting up boundaries. My schedule is so flexible. Every time, like we have guests, like I had guests here in Montreal, they're just like, oh my God, like you don't work. So I'm like, I have short days. I don't work on weekends. I don't work on evenings. I start my days late, like 11 a.m. So I go to the gym. I have a slow breakfast. I do yoga. I do meditation. Sometimes I go read. I go do my French classes. And then I
Mhm.
work 6 hours a day. And it's work that I love, but it's just like getting to a flow that I'm not stressed, overwhelmed, and not able to be there and show up. So that's what I would love for people to do is build that from day one. It's like how
Mhm.
can you enjoy the journey kind of thing and enjoy your day and the structure that you're building. Of
Right.
course, I must say I don't have kids. So I know that would add a big layer of responsibility and stress and lack of time. So
Yes. Yeah. And like this, well, I guess last year was my first year of really at the end of the day, I would say, like, I built the business with both my kiddos by my side. First the one, then the second. And we didn't really have care. And then we did. And then it was finally getting into the routine of having like regular days in a way. And then now all of a sudden we lost care, and then no before and after school care, and one kiddo's in school. So I just feel like that it's just chaos. And
mhm,
so like I'm restructuring my life and what it looks like right now, because I'm in the thick of it of each year not fully looking the same as the previous year. They
mhm,
get older until they're in a certain age bracket that they can kind of watch themselves. But even too, like we're still on the wait list for before and after school care, which is ridiculous to me.
yeah.
For for been almost 2 years that we're and now going into grade one, still nowhere on that. So at this point, I'm like, it's just never going to happen. So what can you do to make your
I
life?
can imagine how tough that is. Yeah.
But personally, because I've always dreamt, like if I ever had kids, I want to be the mom to drive and pick up, no matter what. And having in a 9 to 5, that wouldn't have been even possible. So this has given me the flexibility, but I'm still learning boundaries as myself. I am a perfectionist people pleaser, which rolls into imposter syndrome. Uh,
Mhm,
and that really holds me back. That kind of brings me back to the full circle of imposter syndrome a bit. But I find a lot of people who on the realm of burnout end up interconnecting with imposter syndrome because we're high achievers. So
mhm,
we're always go, 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 go. What else can you do? I feel like I'm not competent. So what can I overachieve and overdo to make that piece look underachieved? Like I'm constantly like, I had a conversation with somebody and they're like, so you wear all the hats. I'm like, yes.
mhm.
But I'm learning of like, this is my first year of I hired somebody else to come in to do the SEO for the new website. I'm
I
like,
mean,
I'm letting that go. Part of me is like, I can do it. No, Brittney, let that go. What
yeah.
is it serving you? Nothing right now. You're already like stressed out. Almost, you already know you're on that burnout level. So why are you adding that on? You know you can outsource it. So outsource it.
Mhm.
And then I just feel like now I'm like, okay, I did it. Yes. And then I'm like, okay, what about LinkedIn? I did it. I'm like, what else can I outsource? It's like when you finally let go a little bit, it's amazing on how much more you can kind of like not everybody can fully outsource. I'm not fully there yet, but it's nice to know that I can manage a little bit to move off the plate just to feel like that needle move just slightly and feel a little bit of
Mhm.
state of less anxiety slash don't crash and burn situation.
Absolutely. Honestly, I see, like, I think I'm fortunate that my background is in marketing and design, actually. I was a designer in Brazil, graphic designer. So I love having a business, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's like a playground to me. I really love all the areas except accounting, I would say. So I have an accountant and bookkeeper to manage that side. But I would say most entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, especially, they don't have a background in marketing and design, and they dread so much this part of the business. And unfortunately, those are very crucial parts of the business. So I
Mhm.
think the outsourcing piece, definitely worth seeing, like getting VAs or something to
Yeah.
help with, because you need that and you don't want to be stressed all the time. So get the things that you are not good at, that you don't enjoy doing, and see what can be outsourced. But of course, I
Mhm.
know there is budgetary issues and things, but it's a plan to be thought about.
Yes, 100%. I personally, like when I feel like I'm on the level of like, okay, I've looked at too many automations, I need to go do something. I love doing the creative work for clients of design work because I'm just like, I'm in my realm. And that's why I like sometimes website development projects, but then sometimes I don't because I'm like, oh, sometimes they go on too long. It's like,
Mhm.
I just want to go do it, have fun, and then on to the next project. I've been told that I'm the worst VA slash from doing an examination of it's a test to see what your team's like. And
Mhm.
he's like, you're a good entrepreneur, good business person, but to work with somebody else to be like a virtual assistant, not you. You like to solve problems. Like you're in the definition of could have been FBI agent.
I love that.
I was like, makes sense, makes sense. And he's like, you're more strategic. So look more in the realm of this, like the strategy role that you're constantly trying to find the solution to the problem.
Mhm.
Um, I know you have written a book. You mentioned it was in Portuguese, but do you want to just highlight what the book is? Because I know we have listeners of all over, so that you never know, somebody might be able to read your book.
For sure. Yeah, so I was invited as a co-author of this book, which is in Brazil, where I'm from, and it's available in Portuguese only. But it's a mix of stories from different authors, and it's all around female kind of empowerment, like women's stories. So each of them are different. Um, I don't talk a whole lot, like I got really personal with my story, and it's not something I share a whole lot on lives and social media and stuff. But basically, well, I'll share here. I think this is going to be the only channel that I'm going to talk about this.
The safe.
Uh, but I grew up with my mother is an alcoholic, and it was very rough growing up with her. But I also see who I am today, thanks to who she is, and the lessons I learned through her, not from what she taught me, but like what I learned from her life. And I think like I'm just sharing those kind of learnings there. And just to kind of sum up, it's in like we can all build the lives that we want in a way, like we have the capability of changing things and changing situations.
Mhm.
And I feel like my mom unfortunately didn't do a lot of that, but it inspired me to make sure I do it for myself. So
Mhm.
even seeing how I came to Canada and started from scratch, and like I literally had a minimum wage job. I came with $1,000 in my pocket. I was making $8 per hour part time.
Mhm.
And I literally like built my entire career. Like I worked on retail for 3 years. My first 3 years in Canada was all retail, making very little salary. So I built everything from scratch, built my whole career, started a business. And I do a lot of therapy for this, but it's like deep inside is a desire to kind of show her that she can do that for herself, like that she can
Mhm.
restart and do something. But of course, I can't make decisions for her, and I can't do anything but just like for myself, which is what I did. So I think she changed my life in this way. And I think that inspires me to help people who want to change their lives. So
Mhm.
honestly, like I have no intention or desire to help people who don't want to change or to get somewhere. I'm ready to work with people who are ready to do the work, and that inspires me. And I think it's the whole, like my whole journey. So anyway, my story in the book, it's that
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Thank you for sharing. I also this is why I said that I feel like we're somewhat similar in different means. My dad was an alcoholic, but he did go through AA. So I feel like that's why we've always kind of had some kind of synergy of something, marketing communications to some childhood items. So thank you for sharing with that, because I know some listeners out there could be going through something similar and can relate to that as well. And I always felt personally like when I went through my childhood traumas of all of the different things throughout the shows, you'll start to get to know me a bit more. I get to talk a little bit more in different areas. But it's just that we are all worthy of doing something great in our lives. And I always felt like I'm here to do something. And I just remember when I was little, I'm like, I'm going to do something great. I don't know what it is. But I also, like, I had a conversation too. The Michael Jackson song, like Man in the Mirror. And for whatever reason, I'm like, I need to fix myself though, and fix the healing of the hurt and all of the trauma that I have gone throughout my life, to be that person to represent what I want to do. A good mom, to business owner, to all the things, and just be that person. And I love that you went to Toastmasters too. See, that's another kind of little had. I also went to Toastmasters. So anyone thinking about doing like speaking and going into that kind of journey, Toastmasters is great. I would say I cried my very first day. That's okay.
That's so funny. You know what's funny? As I was going through Toastmasters, I would always feel nervous about speaking, but with time, I would feel like almost this feels like easy in a way, like this is not a real stage in a way. And I was almost like, I don't know if this is helping me. And then I left Toastmasters when I had my burnout. So I left everything. I dropped everything I mentioned here. But then I look back today, and honestly, there is no other explanation for how comfortable I feel speaking today than Toastmasters. Like, it just got to the point that I was feeling like it was easy, but it's because they made it feel easy, like in such a short amount of time. It was about 8 months. And yeah, I'm just so comfortable today speaking.
I'm getting there. This year, though, I'm proud of myself to say that I've done like a few different in-person speaking gigs. I feel like I'm more comfortable on camera,
Yeah.
which is usually the opposite for people. But in speaking in front of people, it's just kind of like, and like I mentioned, I have dyslexia, so I get super nervous because it's like flashbacks in school, being in that person of like, it's your turn to read. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're all going to make fun of me because I can't say that one word. But I've learned to kind of like make fun of myself and just accept it and ask the person in the room how to pronounce it or how do you say it, and just kind of really kind of claim it. I feel like going back to that perfection persona, nobody's perfect. So instead of just saying that we can all be perfect, how can we break down the narrative of we are just who we are and worthy of what we want to stand for?
So the more we put ourselves as like, oh, I'm the expert, I know everything about this, the more we put ourselves in a pedestal of being like perfect expert in a way, the harder it gets to show up. But if we put ourselves as humans who are also learning, who are also going through an experience, and that we can also be vulnerable, people are so forgiving and we can feel so much more comfortable, and then it's easier to show up as another human that don't need to be perfect. So I just love embracing that spirit of being authentic and not faking it and just being yourself. And if I don't know, I'll ask, like you mentioned. I think this is so much more valuable. You build deeper, more meaningful relationships. It goes so much further than just pretending to be perfect. And it's much harder because when you fall, like you make one little mistake and it's the end of the world because of it. So.
And then you beat yourself up and you go in that cycle.
Yeah.
Which, how can we break the cycle? We're almost at time. Before we're at time, maybe you can share any upcoming projects that you're doing that you want to tell everybody, and we'll make sure that everyone goes and follow you on your Instagram account or visit your website.
Thank you so much. So most of my work today is through coaching, either group programs or one-on-one coaching. But I'm happy to share. I also host like retreats and workshops and in-person events. And the second half of the year now, I'm focused on a new kind of leg of the business, which is more corporate, doing more corporate training, corporate coaching, and corporate workshops. So getting more into that realm and kind of bringing this mentality of mindfulness and wellness into the workplace. So like we can be productive, we can be more creative, we can enjoy the work better, you can improve retention of employees and all of that, like with happy people. So how we can bring more of this mindset into the workplace. So that's what I'm excited for, but it's still working one-on-one and group for business entrepreneurs and doing this work.
That's amazing. And it's so important to have those kind of mindfulness talks in the 9 to 5, because I think in the next generation to come, that's what they're going to want to be looking for as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming into the show, everyone. Thank you for listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, and a big thank you to the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. Next week, we will be bringing in Michelle. We're just finishing some tidbits there, but it's all about marketing, branding, and then we're going to talk about the event that I'm coming in to help her with on being a presenter. So come in, everybody. But with that, remember, your journey is unique and your worth is unquestionable. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so